Morning, I'm Gary Wiles. Elizabeth Warren is angry. She's angry at the size of CEO salaries and the top 10%, whom she believes has too much wealth. She's angry because she thinks there is a gap between the nation's wealthiest citizens and the nation's poverty, ignoring the middle class completely. Dividing the people into wealthy and poor classes is an old class warfare tactic of socialism. It will cause more discontent, and it will be easier to tax the wealthy with the support of the poor. Her answer is to make capitalism more accountable to the federal government. Her Accountable Capitalism Act, Senate Bill 3348, introduced in the 115th Congress but not yet passed, focuses on her decision that the main cause of these supposed inequities is the corporate business maximizing returns to shareholders, thereby redirecting billions of dollars that could have gone to workers or long-term investments. This is one of the many campaign topics brought forth by the 2020 Democrats for whom legislation is all tied up and ready to go. This particular act is socialist and unconstitutional. It moves our capitalist system to a corporatist system which is adjacent to a socialist system. Capitalism is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by state. According to Ron Paul, writing from the Daily Bell in 2010, corporatism is a system where businesses are nominally in private hands, but in fact are controlled by government. Socialism is a system where the government directly owns and manages businesses. If this act were passed into law, it would be a hop, skip, and a jump to socialism. Her Accountability Act would enact corporatism socialism in the following 4 ways. Number 1, it will require that employees elect 40% of boards of directors of any corporation with over $1 billion in tax receipts. Number 2, it would require that 75% of shareholders and directors must approve any political spending. Number 3, corporations with revenues over $1 billion would be required to obtain a federal corporate charter. Number 4, the act also contains a constituency statute, that would give directors a duty of creating a general public benefit with regard to a corporation's stakeholders, including shareholders, employees, and the environment, and the nations of the enterprise in the long term. Senator Warren intends to invade corporations with government regulations and put government in charge of business while continuing an illusion the corporations are in private hands. On point number 1, electing boards of directors, I'm sure any candidates brought forward would be completely nonpartisan. It's like I've heard Senator Warren say before, it's not about the money. In reality, boards would be packed with members who are sympathetic to socialism, directing monies from big business to the government, and putting government in control of these businesses, which is the main point of this Accountability Act. And it's all about the money. It always is. Point number 2 even goes so far as to make sure a high majority of shareholders and directors approve any political spending, another attack on Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. She just doesn't want business to have any say in the country's political process, which is also why this act is unconstitutional. Government, let alone anyone else, doesn't have the right to exclude anyone in our country from our political process. Elizabeth Warren wants to move us from capitalism to corporatism and then straight on to socialism. Point number 3 proves this with new registrations and regulations for big business to exist and operate in the United States. These new points of control in the United States government would direct control away from business owned by private hands and toward business being controlled by government. The United States government has enough registration procedures and regulations to handle big business just fine. Thank you. The Democrats aren't officially in power, but they want to be, in such a bad way that they'll sacrifice our democratically based republic, Constitution and all, for power. And when that happens, our voice in government, even limited today, will cease to exist. Government shouldn't control business because it will enable government to control our lives even more than now. Our government can't control themselves well now. How good of a job does anyone think they'll do at controlling us to the extreme should the democratic socialists get their way? Many thanks to the Heritage Foundation, the Daily Caller, and Wikipedia for this information. Thank you.